Coming into the ring on my left, middleweight champion of the world, LaMotta.
I came to my brother with a proposition that if I lost the fight, I would be guaranteed a shot for the title. And I agreed. I knew that once I went in that ring, I couldn't lose because I was so obsessed in my mind. So I stopped him in the 10th round. Well, I knew for 10 rounds that I won the fight. But for the next 3 rounds, I couldn't lift up my arms.
There was a night in 1947 when a man stood in a ring knowing he was the better fighter. He put himself down. Deliberately, knowing exactly what he was, knowing exactly what he was doing. Not because he was hurt, not because his legs gave out, not because he had no choice. He fell because someone, somewhere, had promised him something in return. He got everything, and couldn't put down what getting it cost him. That's the cost of a deal that delivers. His name was Jake LaMotta. In 1943, he did something no one had done before. He knocked down Sugar Ray Robinson. Not hurt him, or not outpointed him in a single exchange. Knocked him down. Robinson was considered untouchable. He moved like something physics had not fully accounted for. He had a record that made opponents reconsider careers before they started. LaMotta put him on the canvas. The judges gave the fight to Robinson. The canvas did not lie. That is the only biographical detail that matters here. Not because it makes LaMotta a hero, because it establishes the gap between the man who put Sugar Ray Robinson on the floor and the man who lay down on it voluntarily. LaMotta walked into Madison Square Garden to fight Billy Fox. Billy Fox had won 50 fights, 48 by knockout. On paper, he looked like the kind of man who could stop Jake LaMotta. 3 hours before the fight, the odds shifted so fast that bookmakers stopped taking bets on Fox entirely. The fix was so obvious that the chairman of the New York State Athletic Commission went to both dressing rooms to warn them. It didn't matter. LaMotta later described what it actually felt like inside the ring. He was trying to lose, but Fox was so fragile that LaMotta was nearly holding him upright with his jabs. The man he agreed to fall for couldn't have put him down if he'd tried. Before the 4th round, the crowd already knew something was wrong. The timing was off. The reactions were off. The man who had knocked down Sugar Ray Robinson was not moving like himself. In the 4th round, he went down. Not from a punch, not from exhaustion. The crowd did not go quiet in stunned silence. They booed. He knew it before any of them. He was not hurt. He was not beaten. He was delivering on a transaction. The deal had been made with men who operated outside the rules of the sport. But the cost of a deal like that isn't paid only to the men who offered it. It's also paid internally, in the account only he could see. That account opened the moment the agreement was made. Not the moment of the fall, the moment he agreed to fall. That is where the account began. The only question was what the delivery would feel like when it finally arrived. 2 years later, he found out. 2 years passed. June 16th, 1949. Detroit. LaMotta fought Laurent Dossuil for the middleweight title. He won. Everything the deal had promised arrived exactly as promised. The belt around his waist, his name announced to a full arena, the title, middleweight champion of the world, his to hold. Every term of the transaction had been honored. He got exactly what he traded for. Not a version of it. Not a consolation. The moment every fighter who has ever laced up gloves is actually chasing. Not just to win, to become, to be the thing you told yourself you were before anyone believed it. He was that. Officially, undeniably, his. There is a specific kind of silence that follows getting exactly what you wanted. Not disappointment, not regret. Those are clean. Those have names. This is something else. LaMotta knew that silence. The belt around his waist, the crowd, the ceremony, the flash of cameras. And underneath all of it, quiet, permanent, going nowhere. The night of the Fox fight. A transaction can deliver on every term and still leave the account open. The belt confirmed one thing the deal had never hidden: that he had always known what he was doing, before the agreement, during it, and every year after. That knowledge did not leave when the belt arrived. LaMotta held the belt. The belt didn't arrive alone. It arrived with the agreement, permanently, without asking permission. Neither canceled the other. This is the structure of a certain kind of cost. Not punishment from outside, not consequence handed down by someone with authority over the situation. It lives in the part of you that was present at both moments. The one who agreed, and the one who received. That part does not forget. The ledger opened the night of the agreement. The title did not close it. Boxing ended. The training, the weight cuts, the rounds, the decisions. All of it ended the way these things end. Not in one moment, in accumulation. In the slow subtraction of what the body could sustain. And LaMotta ended up in Miami Beach. He ran a bar, a small nightclub. There was a stage. He did stand-up comedy. In the act, in the material he built and performed on that small stage, for audiences on weeknights who had come for the drink prices and stayed for whatever was on, there was a story. The story of the night he went down in the 4th round against a man he was better than. He told it for laughs. He built the bit carefully, worked the timing, set up the fox fight, the dive, the 4th round, the crowd, and delivered the punchline at the precise moment it would land. He made them laugh. This was not Madison Square Garden. It was a small room in Miami Beach, an audience of civilians, people who mostly did not know who he was. And night after night, he stood at that microphone and gave them the story. Not as confession, not as reckoning, as entertainment. The bit had been told so many times it had grown over the original, the way scar tissue grows over a wound. Smooth on the surface, the damage underneath. The room received the joke. It did not receive what the joke was built to conceal. LaMotta was standing inside the agreement the story was built to conceal. He stood at that microphone for years. The audience changed. The story did not. The question is what yours looks like. The version you perform when the story of a certain decision comes up. Your deal wasn't with men who operated outside the rules. It was quieter than that, and the account has been running just as long. But in the specific place, the conversation, the relationship, the version of yourself you present when the story of a certain decision comes up, where you have learned to give the room to the version that produces the right response. You know what decision that is. You have always known. Your deal was with yourself. The moment you decided that what you were capable of was less important than what was available to you, that the life that fit was preferable to the one that didn't, that the version of yourself everyone could accept was a reasonable substitute for the one that made you uncomfortable to inhabit. The terms looked rational. The delivery came through. You got the life, the stability, the version of yourself that no one questioned. And you have been performing the story of it ever since, shaped into something the room can receive. You know the pause. You know what it lands. And underneath the performance, the ambition you adjusted downward because someone told you to be realistic. The relationship you stayed in past the moment you knew. The work you made acceptable when the true version felt like too much to show. The version of yourself you agreed to become because the other one cost more than you were willing to spend. That sits underneath. Not gone. Present. In the part of you that was present at both moments. The one who agreed, and the one who received what the agreement promised. That part does not forget. The account is still open. Not because you haven't tried to close it, because certain ledgers don't close on delivery. They close on something else. LaMotta never found out what. The interesting thing about LaMotta's story isn't the dive. Every fighter who ever took a dive has a version of that story. The interesting thing is the microphone. That he went back, night after night, to the one story he should have been able to leave behind, and couldn't. Something was offered. He took it. The terms were rational. The delivery came through. He held the belt. None of that closed the account. He performed that story for 30 years. The laugh never closed the account, but it kept him from having to look at what would. He kept standing at that microphone. He kept giving the room the story. He kept finding the pause, hitting the laugh, walking off the stage with the transaction still running underneath everything. He sat in front of a Senate subcommittee in 1960 and told them everything, under oath. 13 years after the fight, still managing the story, still backpedaling. The account doesn't close just because you finally say it out loud. Because a ledger that opened on the moment you agreed, not the moment you acted, does not close when the outcome arrives. It does not close when the years accumulate. It does not close when the story gets good enough that the room forgets to ask what it is built to conceal. That is not a boxing story. The deal delivered. The cost is still running.